Wisconsin Broadcasters Association Hall of Famer Bob Berry ruled Milwaukee's airwaves in the 60s and 70s. He spoke with countless musicians and celebrities over the years. Bob collected remarkable recordings of these encounters, which he's now sharing with the public. Here's Bob.
Can you guess which was the biggest hit record for Paul Revere and the Raiders? Was it Kicks, Just Like Me, or Hungry? Paul surprised me with his answer. He also explained the story behind a song which had been a flop for another artist. It went on to be number one, sold over 1 million copies, and stayed on the charts for 22 weeks. Paul also talks about the group's history, and he revealed the name of his partner in a nightclub they owned in Reno. Hey, look who just walked into your radio this morning. Paul Revere of Paul Revere and the Raiders. Has anything changed? I mean, have you changed your costumes? Have you, what has changed with Paul Revere and the Raiders over the years?
Well, we washed them, but we don't change them.
I think of where the action is whenever I think of you guys. I think of your appearances you made in Milwaukee in the 60s, and I was with you a couple of times. But the action show, got to ask you one question now. After all these years, you can tell the truth. Did you guys ever date any of those pretty girls from the action show?
Absolutely not. What do you think we are? What do you think we are, for crying out loud?
You still lie to me after all these years.
Healthy American boys. Why would they do something like that?
Hey, you have a club in Reno with Bill Medley.
Yes, it's great. It's a 50s, 60s club, and it's perfect.
And guess what the club is called?
It's called Kicks.
Kicks, of course. What else?
Absolutely. Kicks, and it was probably one of the first songs that the lyrics was saying something other than the moon is blue and I love you, or you left me and I'm going to kill myself, or whatever. This was a song that was not related to a love story of any kind. It was a message song about drugs. It was an anti-drug song. And it was really the first song of its kind to come out with any kind of a statement. And it ended up getting an award from Synagogue for being an anti-drug statement in the song.
How long have you had the club in Reno?
Let's see, we opened it a year ago last March.
So it was after Bill's success after a successful hit in Dirty Dancing, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of a surprise. The last thing we were playing in the Desert Inn, in the Frontier Hotel in Las Vegas with the Righteous Brothers when Bill recorded that song, and he recorded it. It was for a movie, and he said I asked him what the name of the movie was. He says it's a movie called Dirty Dancing. This is a stupid movie. He says I don't think it'll ever amount to anything. Anyway, the movie became a monster, and the song became this huge hit. Bill couldn't believe it. He called me up one day. He says, "Paul," he says, "I don't believe it." He says, "I got a hit record." He says, "After all these years, you believe that I got a hit record?" And I said, "You're kidding? What?" He says, "That song I did for Dirty Dancing." He says, "The Time of My Life song." I said, "You're kidding?" He says, "No." He says, "It's like number 30 and going up the charts." And it ended up going to number 1 and being the biggest song of the year. It got Academy Award. It got the Grammy, American Music Award. He won every award there was with that song. But it's the old story. Well, you never know. All of a sudden, when you least expect it, you can have a monster hit. That's what keeps us all hanging on, I guess.
Yeah. So have you guys been friends, over the years, or is this a fairly new friendship? Or?
Oh, no. We go back 1,000 years. When we had a record called Louie Louie back in 1963. There was a number 1 record up in the Northwest. And this is before the Kingsmen's version, about 3 months before their version. And anyway, at that time, the Righteous Brothers just had a record called Little Latin Loop-de-Loo that was out about that time.
Oh, yeah.
And anyway, so we knew each other back since 1963.
What's this 65 Mustang thing that you have on stage?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to have it. I got 2 cars I carry on the road. One of the 58 Edsel, which is that's the year I started my band, so that has some significance. And the other one's a 1965 Mustang, and the significance of that is because that was probably the biggest year we ever had. So it's very, very mid-60s-ish. So it's just a little nostalgia trip that we kind of add to the show on stage.
Which one was your biggest hit? Why don't you tell us about it and we'll play it?
Well, believe it or not, most people remember Kicks more than any other song, but that wasn't our biggest seller. The biggest hit we ever had was in 1971. It was called Indian Reservation, sold 3 million copies,
Ooh.
and it was a tough sell. We released that song, and it was 105 with an anchor. Nobody would play it, and I went clear across the country on a motorcycle with a friend of mine, that 2 bikes. We went easy riding it across the country, stopping at every radio station along the way, and took me about 3 months, and I finally got enough friends to play the record on the radio, and eventually it took off, and it became the #1 record, and I think it was in July of 1971 that it went to #1. But it was our biggest hit, but it was a hard sell. Nobody wanted to believe that Paul Revere and the Raiders should record something like Indian Reservation, but we did.
Paul, what's the story behind the lyrics of Indian Reservation?
Well, the song was written by John D. Loudermilk, which I don't know if you're aware who he is, but
Sure, I remember.
He wrote some great rock and roll songs back in the 50s, but he's basically a country artist and a songwriter, and he wrote for a publishing company called Acuff Rose, which is a very big country and western publishing company. Anyway, he was Cherokee Indian, and he wrote that song out of his own head, and it meant more to him probably than anyone else, because it was a song that he wrote, and he was Cherokee Indian, and he wrote it probably about 10 years before we recorded it, and he released it I think on an album or something, but I don't know how we ended up finding it, but somehow or other Jack Gold, who was the head of A&R for Columbia Records, brought the song to us and said, "You guys ought to record this. We think it's a hit." So, hey, we were right in the middle of recording an album at the time, and so we just went ahead and recorded it, and it was one of those songs that it was so different that it was either going to be a hit or a complete dud, one or the other. Any song is really off the wall different. Either will be a monster hit or else it will just die a terrible death. So we didn't know whether it was going to be big or nothing, but took a lot of work, but it became our biggest hit. Hi, this is Paul Revere of Paul Revere and the Raiders, and let me tell you, if you think Paul Revere and the Raiders dress funny, you should see what Bob Barry's wearing right now.
Thank you for listening to Bob Barry's Unearthed Interviews. Be sure to subscribe and rate our podcast on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts. You can find all the episodes at WisconsinBroadcastingMuseum.org. Check out Bob Barry's book, Rock and Roll Radio Milwaukee. Book sale proceeds support Angels Kids Fund and Donate Life Wisconsin. The preceding program was made possible by a generous contribution from Terry Vaughn.